In this video, I'm going to show you some examples with variables, and the program I'm going to use for it is a program to calculate y equals ax squared plus bx plus c given a particular a, b, and c. So let's go over to our code. I'm going to erase everything that I start with, and I'm going to create a variable, y equals. All right, so the first thing I would like to do is I would like to put in that quadratic formula. So a times x squared, and in case you haven't seen squared before, it's actually a double asterisk, a times x squared. Notice you do need this right here. If you delete it, or even just have a space, Python won't know what to do. You have to specifically tell it that you're going to multiply. So ax squared plus b times x plus c. Now, what I have here is not going to work because I haven't created the variables a, x, b, or c. Now my a, b, and c I'm not going to have change. So I'll create each of those. I'm going to say a, I'm going to keep it simple and just make that 1. Let's set b equal to, let's see, 7, and c equal to 12. All right, so now I still need x. Now I'd actually like to get x from the user. So I will say x equals input, parentheses, and then give me a number. Now, if I try and run this program as is, I'm going to get an error. I'm going to get an error on this line because I can't multiply strings and integers. So even if I type in a numeric value when I run this program, input always gives me a string. So I'm going to make a new line here. I'm going to say x equals int x. So what I'm doing on this line is I'm using the int function. So functions are actions that the program takes, and the particular action that int is going to take is whatever I pass to the function, whatever I give to it within its parentheses that come after the name of the function, it's going to change into an integer type. So instead of being a string, it's going to be an integer, which allows me to do mathematical operations on it and allows me to multiply it times other numbers and things like that. So let's print out y and run our program. So give me a number. First, I'm just going to do an arbitrary number, and then I'm going to try and do one of the intercepts. So I'll do 5. All right, so when I plug in 5, I get 72 back, apparently. Now, 3 times 4 is 12, but 3 plus 4 is 7. So that means that -3 should be one of the intercepts. Great, so that gives me 0. So that checks out. Now, the math of this is not as important as just the practice of creating variables and making sure that they're the right type. So input is a function. Every single function you're ever going to use is going to be followed by some parentheses. Those parentheses might have something in them. They might not. I could give myself a new line that's just empty by calling print with nothing in its parentheses, and then I could print that was the solution if I wanted. If I run this program, and I'll put in -4, that should be the other y-intercept. 0, that was the solution, with a blank space in between, right? Blank space right here. So I can call a function and not put anything inside its parentheses, but that's not what I want to do up here. I want to pass in the question that I'm going to ask the user into input, and input then is going to give me back whatever the user typed in. It's going to get that value and put it right here. So when the program runs, it gets to this line. Input's going to be replaced by the value I typed in, and then this equal sign is saying, okay, set the value of x to be whatever that value was that was typed in. And then the next line says, okay, now set the value of x to be whatever this is. Well, this is the current value of x changed to an integer. That's going to erase the old value of x, and now x is going to be a number. I create 3 more variables right through here. Each one I just say create a, set the value to be 1, create b, set the value to be 7, create c, set the value to be 12. And when I say create a variable, all I mean is it's the first time I'm using its name, it's on the left side of an equal sign, and there's some kind of value on the right. It could be a number, could be a string. Later on we'll see lots of other options of what it could be. And then here I'm creating another variable, but it's a little bit more complicated. So I'm creating the variable named y, but the complicated part is simply what its value is. As long as Python can run this piece of code right here and figure out a value for it, then that value is going to be put into this new variable named y, some other string. So if I want to say the solution is, and then I want to print y, and then I don't know, isn't that right? Well, now I've messed up because I'm mixing my quotation marks and my single quotes. Okay, there we go. The solution is y, isn't that right? So I don't know why I'm trying to say this, mostly to demonstrate how to print out the variable y. Now if I run this just as is, what's going to happen is no matter what number I put in, it's literally going to print out the letter y, because that's what happens when you put any sort of text in between quotation marks or the single quotes. So what I have to do is I have to end those quotation marks, so to create a gap here. And I can't just put y in the middle. I need plus signs. Plus signs are the glue that are going to hold all these pieces together. So now y is attached to these two strings, and this is still not going to work. If I run it again, and again I put in whatever number I want, I get an error. I can't concatenate, here it's easier to read, I can't concatenate string and int. So I can't add together text and numbers. So what I need to do is I need to use my str function and change the y value back to a string so that I can connect them together. All right, give me a number, 7. All right, the solution is 110, isn't that right? Now it works the way I expect. I get the value of y as a string, as a text, and then I'm allowed to add it to the other strings. Now the last thing I want to note is that there are a variety of different ways to write programs that change sort of the density of the code. I could have taken this line out and on the previous line said y equals string y, similar to what I did right here where I changed x. And this would also be correct. Now I could and that spreads the program out. Maybe it makes it easier to read for you, maybe it doesn't. This is a matter of personal preference. And I can sort of go the opposite direction, right? I could put int around this line and then delete this line. I could put string around this line and delete the next line. And now I'm sort of making things more dense. I could even get rid of y altogether, cut this out, and paste it right in here. I can do lots of things on one single line of code, but that can cause things to get a little bit more confusing, right? I kind of like the A, B, and the C, but I don't really need those either, right? Here I can get rid of the A. I could just put the numeric value of 7 here and the value of 12 here. But at this point, it's getting very, very difficult to figure out what the purpose of this code is and what's going on. Now, comments can help, right? We could say this program gives the y value of x squared plus 7x plus 12 when you type in the x value, right? I could say that, and that's quite helpful, but it's also nice to create code that it's just more readable by being a little bit spread out. I think there's a happy medium, right? This is too dense, and maybe my original program was even too spread out. I don't know. It's a matter of preference. It's something I would like you to be aware of. So that's all for that video.